Hello everyone, welcome to Mountain Rose Herbs Free Herbalism Project virtual plant walk. My name is Stephen Yeager. Give you a little bit about my background. I'm Director of Quality at Mountain Rose Herbs. I'm also co-owner of the Columbine School of Botanical Studies here in Eugene, Oregon, where we teach field botany, basic herbalism, advanced herbalism, and wild harvesting. And let's get started here today on our plant walk. We're going to start with this plant here. This is Oregon grapefruit, or Oregon grape. It's in the Berberidaceae family. Its botanical name is Berberis aquifolium. Quickly with botanically speaking, I'm not going to get too much into plant ID on a virtual plant walk, but you can see this plant is a shrub. It's all growing through here. It has these pinnately compound leaves, and right now in this stage of the spring it's going into fruit, where it'll get a grape-like colored berry where it once had yellow flowers. This plant, as far as its uses go, is that it's edible, and mainly the fruits are the part that is used as a food once they're ripe. So going back, bitters stimulate digestion. Just the tasting a bitter, you starts the digestive juices flowing. It starts to increase saliva, peristalsis, the wavy motion in your stomach and your intestinal tract starts to increase. And so bitters are really helpful for things such as stomach aches, occasional gas, constipation, because it signals food's on the way. So we have receptor sites on our tongue that when we taste something bitter, it sends a chain reaction through our digestive tract that food's on the way, which can help with many of these stomach issues that you might have on a daily basis. Which reminds me of a song I once heard on WFHP radio. You've got that bloated feeling, whoa, that bloated feeling. You've got that bloated feeling, now it's gone, gone, gone. Whoa, a bitter, a bitter, a bitter, a bitter, a bitter, a bitter, a bitter. How'd that one turn out? Let's go to the next plant. So let's go on to the next plant, shall we? This is cow parsnip, which is a native plant here in Oregon. It's in the Apiaceae family, which is the carrot or the parsnip family, formerly known as the Umbelliferae. This is Heraculum lanatum. And this plant here is used as an edible, but I would be very cautious about using it as an edible, as there are oils in this plant that if you get on your skin and you go out too much in the sunlight, you'll get a rash, and it can be quite almost like a chemical burn. So you want to be cautious around this plant when using it. It also has aromatic fruits, or which are also known as seeds. The seed is inside of the fruit. And aromatics also stimulate digestion. When you taste something aromatic like peppermint, lemon balm, aromatics, you eat aromatics, and unlike bitters, which you have this reflex action, aromatics actually have to get into your digestive tract. They irritate your digestive tract slightly, and that improves function. So you can use aromatic herbs if they're not poisonous for similar reasons you'd use bitters for your digestive tract, stomach aches, constipation, etc. Another thing, botanically speaking, in regards to this plant, is you can tell Umbelliferae or Apiaceae family very easily by when they're in flower. Their flowers are in umbels. And in most Apiaceae, the flowers are in compound umbels. See, all the stems meet here at this one location, like an umbrella. And then they have these little umbels called umbellets, and all those stems meet to the individual flowers. So it's a compound umbel. So knowing a plant is in the Apiaceae or Umbelliferae family is quite easy, but it gets much trickier from there, figuring out which species it is. And with the Apiaceae family, I did mention it has many edible plants. Many of our spices, cilantro, parsley, dill, anise, fennel, are all in the Umbelliferae family, many of our pantry herbs. But they're also some of the most deadly and toxic plants in the Umbelliferae Apiaceae family, such as poison hemlock and water hemlock, where one piece of that root could potentially kill. Many recorded deaths from poison hemlock and water hemlock. So you really got to have 100% identification when working with Apiaceae plants. And I recommend if you see an umbel in the wild, be very cautious to make sure you know the species, because there's many lookalikes in the umbelliferae. I had a teacher once when I was first starting learning about herbs. She taught me to be humble with the umbel, and I still think that's very true for me today. And they also have hollow stems. When you cut open the stem, you would see that the stem is hollow, which reminds me of a song on WFHP radio. Your stems are hollow. Your schizocarps just give you away. Your stems are hollow. Your umbelliferae. Here we are at another plant. This is some violet leaf. It's a little bit past its bloom and it's going to fruit here. Violets are in the Violaceae family. And this is one of our native violets, Viola glabella. It has a yellow flower, which is not violet, but many violets do have violet flowers. But here in the Pacific Northwest, they have colors in white, yellow, and violet. All violas are edible. So if you know it's in the genera Viola, the whole plant's edible. The leaves make a great addition to your spring salad. They're also all demulcent, and demulcents soothe mucous membranes, so they're really good for occasional heartburn, sore throats. Here we have some cleavers, which is in the Rubiaceae family, and this is Gallium aperrine, and this is a weedy species here in the Pacific Northwest. And this Gallium aperrine has these really tiny hairs on it. In botany land, that's called pubescent, and the hairs are kind of curved. And when you put it on, like say your shirt, it sticks to you. Some of the kids like to call it the Velcro plant, or you'll see little kids throwing it at each other to make it stick to them. Here, Mason, let me show you. Look at this. Wait, look, and say ha ha. It's like a kick me sign. Oh, well, Cleavers is edible. All Gallium species are edible. One of the issues with eating this plant, especially this species, the Gallium aperrine, is that it has these hairs. So you would need to cook it or eat it when it's very young to kind of remove those hairs. Also, there are many herbal uses for this plant. One of them I'll mention that it's diuretic. Diuretics make you pee. I think it's enough for now. Let's go on to the next plant. Oh, well, what do we have here? Oh, one of my favorite Northwest edibles, in fact. This is candy flower, and its botanical name is Claytonia siberica. And it's very common this time of year in the spring, and it's actually what we call a choice edible. And choice edible is a wild plant that you eat, and the general public, you eat it and they'll think it's good. Because most wild foods, you eat wild foods and it's like really bitter, or you need to prepare it in some way, or the general public isn't going to take a bite and think that it's as tasty as, like, say, spinach. But this one is very tasty. I would say the stems are much like sprouts, and the leaves are a lot like lettuce. And with the candy flower, you can tell that it has 2 opposite leaves and the 5 notched petals. I think that's probably enough. Oh, right. So candy flower is a great edible. It reminds me of a song. Again, this plant used to be in the genera Manchia. Now it's Claytonia. And we used to be able to say that all Manchias are Munchia. Munchia, 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 Munch. We've got an herb that's good for lunch. Oh, here we are. We have a plant that we all probably know in its berry form. This is elder. This is a Pacific Northwest elder. Botanically, you can this will end up being a larger shrub. And you can see these have these compound leaves. So these are all leaflets. And really the leaf starts here at the base where there's a bud. Base is where it attaches to the plant. And then the terminal leaflet, this is a compound leaf. So these are all leaflets. And in elder, in the genus is Sambucus, in elder the leaves are opposite leaves. Many elders are edible, but you need to cook them. The fruits are what are edible. And the elder needs to be cooked or made into a syrup, or you'll see in traditions made into a wine. Eating elder raw can cause elderberry raw can cause severe gastrointestinal upset. So you always want to cook your elderberry or make a tincture. Elder is poisonous, and eating other parts of the elder plant could result in sickness, especially the bark or the root. So right now, during these times, we're all trying to stimulate our immune system. So using elderberry fruits in a preparation can aid us during this time of making a syrup or a tincture or even a jam and putting it on your bread. Let's go on to the next plant. So this is a red osier, or some call it red creek dogwood. This plant is astringent, and in an herbal concept is that some plants are astringent, especially certain barks and the leaves, and astringents dry, draw, and shrink swollen tissue. Let's keep going. Oh, sorry. Oh, what do we have here? A maple tree. So we have a couple of maples out here in the Pacific Northwest. This is the Acer macrophyllum, the big leaf maple. These leaves will get quite large upon maturity. Big leaf maples are all edible, and all Acers, in fact. The whole genera Acer is edible. And the part that I like to use is the young flowers when they're in bud. We don't have young flowers here at this time, but early in the spring, and with this species in particular, it's quite unique is that the flowers appear before the leaves. So in the spring, when the flowers are all blooming, you can pick the young buds and eat them. They're quite almost taste like a broccoli-like flavor. You can also tell maples by their fruits. They have what are called samaras, and they're designed to fly. These are still unripe and green, but when they dry out, you'll be able to see them spin. That didn't work too well, but as they dry out, they'll actually spin, and that's how they disperse their seeds, is through the wind. Let's go on to the next plant. One of my favorite plants here, it's just quite striking this time of year, especially when it's in full bloom. This plant is in the waterleaf family. This is Hydrofoil is the family. Hydro meaning water, Folaceae meaning leaf. And this is actually the type genus in this family. This is Hydrophyllum tenuipes, otherwise known as waterleaf. One of the ways you can tell the Hydrofolaceae family is, I don't know if you can see that, but in bud, it's kind of like a circle. And then as it opens up, the blossom or the inflorescence opens up, it unfurls like a scorpion's tail. And they call that a scorpioid inflorescence. And another way you can tell Hydrofolaceae is you can see their exerted stamens. Exerted meaning they stick way out past the petals, the corolla, they're exerted. And what's quite lovely about this specimen is that, or this species, is that the male part, the stamen, the filament is purple. I don't know if you can see that, but it's quite striking. All hydrophyllums are edible. Many of them have a lot of hair on them, so you can eat them raw, but they'll scratch your throat. I prefer to saute it lightly or give it a light steam. But all hydrophyllums are edible. Not really any herbal uses that I'm aware of, but a good plant that's edible here in the Northwest forest. Okay, be normal. There's a better one up there, actually. Oh, here's one. Let's take a look at this shrub. This shrub is in the Rosaceae family. Its botanical name is Ommelaria cerasiformis, otherwise known as Osoberry. One of the things about this plant here in the Pacific Northwest is it's endemic to the Pacific Northwest. It only grows from northern San Francisco up to the southern border of British Columbia. It's the only place on Earth where you'll find the species. Ommelaria is also called Osoberry, and I'll pick some of the fruits here just to give you a close-up of the camera. These are the unripe fruits of the Osoberry, and botanically speaking, they're known as drupes. And it's also happens to be one of my, that drupes happen to be one of my favorite botanical insults. Mason, quit being a drupe. But seriously, this plant is edible, and cerasiformis means in the form of a cherry, because when these fruits become ripe, they'll be fleshy, kind of pulpy, and they have one seed in them, like a stone fruit. Stone fruits are drupes, like cherries, peaches, plums. These berries, once they're ripe, you know, they're not really sweet like a cherry. They're kind of, the berries are kind of oso. But again, it's an edible plant. The leaves are also edible. This time of year, the leaves are quite bitter. But when they're younger, when they're first sprouting, they're still a little bitter, but they're kind of, the flavor is reminiscent of a cucumber. And you can actually chop up those young leaves and put them in like a sandwich or something, and you'll fool your friends. They'll think you put a cucumber in there. Maybe you didn't peel it because it's a little bitter, but it's like a cucumber with the rind still on it. So yeah, Osoberry, also a early bloomer here in the spring. It has these beautiful white flowers, one of the first shrubs to bloom in the Pacific Northwest here, and it's a real harbinger of spring. So here we have one of our blackberries here in Oregon. This is a young blackberry. This blackberry here is very weedy where we live. There are native blackberries, but the native blackberries here in the Northwest trail along the ground. They creep along the ground where this invasive blackberry stands up. Blackberries are wonderful when they're in fruit because they're delicious. They have, you know, the yummy blackberries, but when they're also astringent. Astringents dry, draw, and shrink swollen tissue. The leaves are astringent, but you want to be careful of the prickles. You can see like a rose, they have prickles on the stem and also on the leaves. But traditionally when we think of blackberry as an herb or a useful herb for humans, we think of the root. The root is used as an astringent, great for occasional diarrhea or anything you would use an astringent for. But in the Pacific Northwest, the blackberry, the botanical name is rubus, and it's also in the Rosaceae family. And out here, it just kind of takes over. If you don't trim it back, like in this area here, it's going to take over the whole area. It's going to start to choke out the native plants and can be a real problem here in the Northwest. In fact, if you need some blackberry root, at my house, we have some you-pick blackberry. $15 a pound. You can come pick some blackberry root at my house and make some extracts if you'd like. So let's continue on to the next plant. We found this plant here along the trail. This is lemon balm, which is in the Lamiaceae, which is the mint family. This is Melissa officinalis. Not a native plant here in the Northwest, but quite naturalized at this point. Many people plant it in their gardens and it escapes here to this more native area. You can tell the mint family because it has square stems. When you roll the stem in your hand, it's four-sided or four-angled. It also has opposite leaves. And if we could see the flowers are two-lipped or bilabiate, kind of like this, two-lipped. Melissa is aromatic. So aromatics stimulate digestion. You taste an aromatic plant that's not poisonous, it'll stimulate your digestive tract through irritation. Aromatics move blood. So when you eat something aromatic, like lemon balm, it'll move blood to the surface, and more blood means more function. And that's how it can be helpful for the occasional stomachache or your digestive tract. Lemon balm also to me is just, its smell is just so glorious. It's reminiscent of lemon. The scratch and sniff video has not been implemented yet, but you roll the lemon balm in your hand, you get that wonderful aroma. You know, some folks will use it as a nervine or a calming herb. For me, it's just smelling it really works on the, the mental, the mental funk. You smell some lemon balm and you just feel a lot better. Yeah, Melissa Officinalis Lemon Balm. This concludes our plant walk for today, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with me today. We'll see you next time. Thanks for the plant walk. Be normal. Another day, another dollar. It's a wonderful day in the neighborhood, a wonderful day in the neighborhood. Rosacea, Fabaceae, won't you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor?